Hey everybody, JJ Barrows here with the Jest of It podcast. I am officially back home. I'm in my art studio. I've got some art pieces I've been working on. I got my MLK piece behind me, if you can see it. Still looking for a public place to hang that one. Really cool story behind it. Working on a hot air balloon. I'm trying to do this whole... I had this idea. I was like, I like this size, but I want the air balloon to come out of the painting. And I wasn't sure how to do it. So it took some finagling, but I figured it out. I'll maybe share that story at some point. Working on an Eddie Murphy painting. Actually, for today's guest, he wanted me to paint a few comedians for him. So this is one of them. Feel free to tune in on YouTube if you want to see the paintings. I also still have for sale A Wild and Crazy Guy, my Steve Martin painting. All kinds of stuff. Check out JJ Barrows Art if you want to see more of what I'm doing in the art world. I've spent the last few days painting, surfing, killing spiders. That's living in California for you. No, it's been awesome to be back home, to sleep in my own bed, to not have to sleep in a car. Although I will say, camping in Glacier National Park in the middle of nowhere with no cell phone service. Do we still say that full sentence, cell phone service? Do we just say service? No service, no internet, no Wi-Fi, no connection, no distraction, but just you. And in some ways, it is awe-inspiring, and in other ways, it's terrifying because you got to deal with your ish. So it was an amazing trip. We hit up about 6 national parks. Probably my top 2 were the Grand Tetons and Glacier National Park. I mean, Zion was cool too, walking through all that water. I say all that to say, explore, go outdoors, go be outside. It doesn't have to be some grand national park. You could just go outside, go walk around your neighborhood, go smell the flowers, just get out there. If you live near water, go to the water. Do stuff that makes you feel alive, that makes you feel like you matter and you're important, because you do. And in the grand scheme of things, then you stand at the bottom of a mountain and you're like, I don't matter at all. And it's true. Both are true at the same time. That's what I love about my guest this episode, Brian Apprille. He is a stand-up comedian. He's a motivational speaker. He is a voice actor. He's performed across comedy clubs, businesses, churches, pretty much any audience that is willing to laugh or listen. He filmed his dry bar comedy special recently that should get released this year. He's known for his impressions. He was also the runner-up in doing a voice for Homer Simpson for The Simpsons. So he was almost officially the voice. He also does Alan Rickman and Rick and Morty. I mean, you have to see him perform because he's high energy and his impressions are spot on. And he's just really good at what he does. He's also one of the guys who pretty much took me under his wing when I got into comedy, which is super appreciated. So he's an amazing comedian. He actually has a really inspiring story because I think it was back in 2009. He was diagnosed with, well, actually a slew of things. He's going to tell you his story, but a prime thing being facial paralysis. And so a lot of his story has to deal with being this person who was once known for his animated, expressions and energy, and using your face for comedy is a huge thing. And then all of a sudden that was taken away from him. His identity, so to speak, was stripped in many ways. And then what that does to you and the spiral that can take. It's just so crazy how depression is a place you find yourself in. You don't even know how you got there. It's not like everyone's like, I think I'll be depressed today. Sometimes it's this baby step process, and you don't even know you're heading in that direction. And other times it is a seasonal thing or circumstantial. For other people, it's chemical. It's an imbalance. There's so many different things that go into this weird thing that is depression. And so many people struggle with it, probably so much so that it can easily get dismissed because it's like, oh, depression. People throw the word around like they do dairy or dairy free. I don't know. And so it's an interesting topic to figure out how to talk about, because it's like, how do we talk about this in a real way that sheds light on a serious problem without heightening, the drama or the fad that is the word. And so Brian talks very openly and candidly about his struggle with depression, how he got there, and how he's continued to slowly get himself out of it, how he's used comedy as a means to deal with his pain, as a means to sort of grieve as well. He kind of had to get to a place where he was okay making fun of himself. And in that, realizing that all the things that he was the most insecure about lost a lot of power, because he realized if he was able to laugh at them, who cares if other people did? That's an interesting road as a comedian as well, because it's so funny as comedians, even though our job is to be funny, we want to be taken seriously. We want to be taken seriously that you think we're funny, at least by other comedians. And so it's a really bizarre job. So I do love talking to other comedians. It's interesting because I'll be honest, sometimes it is hit or miss for me when I interview comedians. I was talking to Brian about it in our interview. If you're working with either comedians or people who aren't comedians can sometimes get too performance-based.
Right.
Even in just a one-on-one conversation, it's like they want to make sure they're on and that you think they're funny and that they're the best guest. And then people who aren't performance-based people just don't give you enough.
Right.
And so you're kind of like, argh! And so you're like the perfect mix.
Oh, good.
So that's what I love about talking with Brian is while he is entertaining, he's able to just be very real and very present and very open about what it is he's going through. So I'm excited to share this episode with you. Again, this episode, I decided to split into 2 episodes because we talked about so much, and mental health is something that's super important to me. And so I want that to be an issue that gets time and attention because different people in these different realms are struggling in different yet very important ways. And so wanting to have space and time, I mean, this podcast is kind of all I have going on right now since my comedy shows for 2020 were all canceled thanks to COVID. So thanks so much. I hope you enjoy this episode.
So one Saturday, May in 2009, I got a headache and I ended up getting some Excedrin for migraines, and I took it and I woke up the next day and it didn't do anything. And I don't normally get migraines, so it's a pretty bad headache. And so we ended up going, it started to feel a little bit more over my forehead. So we went to urgent care and the doctor said, well, it's probably just a migraine headache. And I said, I don't get migraine headaches. He says, well, it's probably that or it's TMJ. So he gave me a shot of Toradol, which cleared up my headache temporarily, and I went home. The next morning I woke up and it had shifted and it was behind my eye. The pain was behind my eye and it was really bad. It was probably the most pain I've ever been in my entire life. It felt like I was getting stabbed in the eye. And on a scale of 1 to 10, when I wasn't getting stabbed in the eye, my pain was at an 8. And when I was getting stabbed in the eye, it was like a 13. It was the most pain I've ever felt. So we went back to urgent care and they said, oh, it's just a headache. And they gave me another shot of Toradol, which didn't do anything. And we just kind of moved on. And so my father-in-law is a neurologist, and he suggested that I get a spinal tap because it sounded like I had a viral infection. And with my insurance at the time, you could only get a neurology visit with a referral. So I had to go see my primary. So we went to see my primary and he said, oh, you just have headaches. Don't worry about it. You just have headaches. And he said, please, we're trying to do this. And it just got more and more uncomfortable. And so they said, if you're having these symptoms, and it's getting really bad, then you should go to the emergency room. So we went to the emergency room, waited several hours. I got a CAT scan. I got some blood work. Everything came back normal. Still had these pains. And I started getting ear pain, and it just got worse. And so he said, please, talk to my father-in-law. He's a neurologist. And my doctor said, well, he's not in my network, so I'm not going to talk to him. So my wife begged to get us a neurology visit, and they said, okay, we'll do that, but it takes about a week. And I was like, hey, I'm getting worse. I'm getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So every day for that week, I was either at my primary care, at urgent care, or the emergency room, or a combination of 2 of the 3 every day. And so we were after so many days, I think it was Thursday or Friday, we were at the emergency room. And I ended up, my face started to drop and I started slurring my words and I couldn't close my eye. And they were still going to send me home. And finally, my father-in-law talked to the doctor on call at the emergency room and was like, please, please, please give him a spinal tap. And so they reluctantly agreed. They're like, we're not going to find anything. But they did. They gave me a spinal tap, which didn't hurt until she missed, and I tapped out like a UFC fighter. I was just like, oh, I'm out. It hurts. So they ended up finding out that I had viral meningitis and I had this thing called Ramsay Hunt Syndrome. So they admitted me to the hospital. Now, Ramsay Hunt Syndrome is basically shingles. It starts with shingles in the ear, and it's very, very painful. And what it does is all your facial nerves run behind your ear. So it inflamed and it compacted the nerves, and that caused a paralysis and I had hearing loss, so I couldn't hear anything in my left ear. I had some vision loss, things, blurry. I had a loss of taste in my mouth. Things tasted like a metallic, sour, buttery type of flavor. Not that I know what metallic metal tastes like, but it's what I think it would taste like. And I had vertigo, which is balance issues, and I had the face paralysis. So I was in the hospital for a week, including my birthday. And then I remember when I was in the hospital, my mom sent me a care package. And this was so funny to me because I'm a comedian and I have a weird sense of humor. She called and she's like, "Oh, did Brian get the package?" And my wife was like, "Yes." And she goes, "Well, did it make him smile?" And my wife was like, "Well, half a smile," which I just thought was hysterical because half of my face isn't working. So anyway, I'm weird. What can I say? So I was in there for a week and then I went home. They discharged me and they sent me home with an at-home IV kit. So I had visiting nurses and I had my own IV kit. And then the visits started to get shorter and fewer and farther between. And they're like, "Okay, you're going to have to change your IV bag." And I was like, "I don't know how to change my, my tire, or my oil. You don't want me to change my IV bag? No, I'm not doing that." So we did that. And I was in good spirits because they said, "Oh, it's going to be, a couple weeks, maybe a month, 2 months tops." And so I was able to like play with that. I was able to be like, "Okay, I can deal with that." And I was making the half smile jokes and, just I'll get through this and just be comfortable in bed and just kind of let myself heal. And then 2 months came and went and nothing changed. I still couldn't close my eye. I had to tape my eye down at night with tape. I had to wear goggles or glasses or anytime I went out because it was dangerous for me to go outside because if something flew into my eye, whether it was dirt or anything, I wouldn't be able to get it out and it could, damage my eye. And if I didn't take care of my eye, I could lose my vision permanently. So I did that. And then I was just trying to really like take care of myself. I would brush my teeth and I would go to spit out the toothpaste. And because of my lip paralysis, I couldn't spit. And I would just be like, "Bleh," and I would just fall right out of my mouth. It was so funny. And I laugh at it. It may sound, please don't think this is sad. It's funny to me. You have to laugh at life. And I ended up losing all of the shows that I had planned for that summer. I was doing shows I was doing a bubble show where I would blow bubbles and like huge bubbles and all that sort of stuff. And I had to give that up along with my comedy because I couldn't blow bubbles because my lips wouldn't work. So I'd just be like, and it just, it's hard to do bubbles when you can't blow. So I lost 12 shows a week from that and comedy. And 2 months came and went. And then I got like really depressed because there was no, people were just like, "Well, we don't know when it'll come back, if ever." And I just remember freaking out, like, and then I started to like make deals like, if I can just please close my eye and I can get my hearing back, then I'll be fine. And it took a while and it took about 9 months before my eyes started to close. And it was just horrifying that whole time. I was in so bad of a state emotionally. I didn't want to be around anybody. I didn't want to be near my wife. I didn't want to be near anybody. And we had just been married, 6 months prior, just moved into our house. And I didn't want to do anything. And I was just in bed and I was depressed. And it was just this crippling depression. And I remember in July, one of my friends was like, "Hey, I got an extra ticket to Comic-Con. You want to come? Just get out of the house." And I was like, "I don't want to go to Comic-Con. It's not really my thing. And, I feel like I look like a troll." And he said, "Well, Brian, if there's one place where you can go and look like a troll and blend right in, it's Comic-Con." I was like, "Okay." So we did. And we ended up seeing a panel that was a Family Guy panel. And they ended up having an audition for a Simpsons 20th anniversary show, which he was like, "You have to go and audition for this because I do the Simpsons voices." And I was just like, I can't, my face is, whatever. And so there was this whole story with that. So I kept going through the summer and into the fall and I didn't have any work. And I just felt like I had to get back out and do something. And the people that I was performing with, they were doing this show at the wild animal park and they wanted me to play a shaman. And I was like, "I can't play a shaman. I just can't do that because of my face." it's kind of weird and it's creepy. How about I'll be a troll. And so I played a troll. I shaved my head and I played a troll for the month of October and just interacted with guests. And it was a way to be okay with looking different in the middle of this facial paralysis going on. And it was kind of embarrassing and it was kind of humiliating. Part of me was like, okay, at least I'm out and I'm trying to, work anyway. But it was just kind of degrading. Like I had to play a troll, you know, and the depression just got worse and worse, and it got so crippling that I couldn't get out of it. And I don't know if anyone's ever felt like crushing depression, just where you can't take it anymore. And it's a horrible place to be, and especially for a comedian, supposed to be laughing and fun, to find yourself in this mode of just not getting out of bed and not wanting to. I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to exist. I don't know if that makes sense to you, but it does to me. And so I started getting angry because I was like, I can't live like this. I can't live like this. I can't live like this. And I started getting angry and I started to make fun of myself and make fun of the paralysis. It was the only thing I could do. I had to lash out at something. And so I lashed out at myself and my paralysis. So I started making jokes about it. And I remember sitting around with my family and I was just so hurt and so angry. And I did this troll voice that I kind of learned from the park. And I just, said something like, do you have a napkin so I can cover the side of my face or whatever? And my family started laughing. And it was me expressing this really true pain that I was feeling. But they took it and they laughed at it. And at first I was like, why are they laughing? Like, this is like, I'm bearing my soul. This is this vulnerable pain that I have inside of me right now. And they're laughing at it. And my brother was like, that was really funny. Do it again, do it again, do it again. And so I did it again, and they laughed again. And then my comedian brain kicked in and was kind of like, all right, well, if you're going to keep doing it, at least do it right. Change the last word, make it have a punchline, let's make it funny. Like let's make it really funny. So let's really make fun of it. So I did. And then that was the first start of trying to heal. I didn't know it, but that was the first thing of trying to heal. And I truly believe that if you can laugh at something that causes you pain, you remove the power that it has over you. And I didn't know that then, but I know it now. And I had an issue with my eyebrow not raising, and it really bothered me. And then one of the things that I said very angrily was, I can no longer be surprised. I can only be inquisitive. And I raised one eyebrow, and that turned out to be really funny. And ever since I made that joke, it doesn't bother me that this, doesn't raise anymore. So I was like, okay, I need to get back on stage, but I don't know how. I don't even want to leave the house. Like, I don't want to be around people. I can't even imagine being in front of people, being with a spotlight in my face and having everybody just look at me. And so the first thing I did was I started to stream video games online, which, wonderful choice, because the internet is notorious for kind, supporting people who will just absolutely not say anything mean. And I was like, well, let's get it out of the way. If people are going to be mean, they'll be mean on the internet. And so I was streaming these video games as I was playing. I was expecting all these really hateful comments. And the funny thing is, the meanest comments that I got were not from the people online. They would say things like, did you have a stroke, or what happened to your face? And it was more of a curiosity than it was a mean thing. The meanest comments were actually coming from what I would say to myself. I'd say things like, you're a monster and you're hideous, and your life is over. And it was hard because part of you does die when you get paralysis like that identity that you have of who you are, it does kind of die. The way you view yourself, the way you see yourself, what you were known as, it's gone. And so you're it's like dealing with a death, but it's you. It's a very strange concept. So after doing all those videos and people were not necessarily being super mean about it, I was like, okay, well, maybe when I go out in public, people will like point and laugh and say things. And, I had a few people that kids would come up and what's wrong with his face? Or I would have a few people that would say, hey, did you have a stroke? Or, what's going on? But again, it was more out of curiosity and compassion because maybe they knew someone who had a stroke or Bell's palsy, or very few know Ramsay Hunt. So that started to be okay. And then what really helped was as I was going through my day, I forget where we went, but we were just walking, and I realized I felt like everyone was looking at me, but they really weren't. I thought about it and I was like, can I remember everybody that I passed today, that I walked by today, what they look like and what I thought about them? And I couldn't. And it's because we're all wrapped up in our own heads thinking about what we are thinking that other people are thinking about us, or what we think about us, that you don't see the other person. So they're all wrapped up in their own lives trying to go, oh, I have this going on, I have this going on. And they're not really looking at me. So that freed me up to be able to go outside a little bit more. And I was like, okay, so now I can be outside, I can be online, and it's okay. And I had to get back on stage. And this was a couple years process. This was a few years of going through all of this. And that was the hardest thing to do, was to get back on stage, because again, you're in the spotlight. It's a dark room with just the bright light on your face. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. There's no hiding it. And I was like, one, I haven't been on stage in, a couple years now. Am I still funny? Two, are they going to laugh with me? Are they going to laugh with me, or are they going to laugh at me? Are people going to make fun of me because people are drunk or they're drinking or whatever? Like, it was really hard. And this was my career. This was my love. This is what I loved to do. And if I couldn't do that, if it was all ruined, that would just be devastating. And I remember the first show back, it was the most frightening show I've had probably ever. It was at a little open mic in this town called San Marcos. It was actually at a jiu-jitsu place, because it was just a small little thing. A friend of mine was like, hey, I got a buddy who's a comedian and he runs an open mic. You should go back on and try it. And I was like, all right. And I was so nervous. And I'd been doing comedy professionally for years, and I've never been this nervous before a show. I was so nervous. And I was just pacing back and forth and pacing back and forth. And then the first comic went up, and the open micers are usually not very good. They're new. And the first guy went up and absolutely bombed. And I heard like the first couple of jokes out of his mouth. And I was like, oh, I got this, because I have jokes. But there was still that fear of, what's the audience reaction going to be of my face? So I waited and I waited and I waited. And then it was my turn to go up. I can still see it just walking up. I put my drink down next to me, and I just did a couple of my old jokes that I knew worked, and those got some laughs, and I was good. And then I started talking about my face, and I did the troll stuff that I started with my family, and everybody laughed with that. And that was kind of like, okay, cool. I survived that. And then I was like, how can I make that better? And then just getting back on stage and facing that fear and just continuing to chase my dreams. It was the most important step I could ever take in my life, to get back on and do that, and to face that fear and to continue to chase what I love. And from that moment on, it gave me a purpose, which was to help people heal through laughter, and to help bring laughter to people who need it. And that's my story.
Just so you know, I know it's awkward telling jokes when the response is silent, but you got a lot of laugh breaks.
Okay, good.
When you said it didn't hurt, when you were talking about the spinal tap, and it didn't hurt until she missed, and then you tapped out like a UFC fighter. Yep. I was like, I've never heard that story before. That was really funny.
Yeah.
There's so much there that I didn't even know about you and about your story.
I tried not to be too into the crushing depression.
Yeah, no, but it's so good. And I think that's a really real thing. And it's a really real thing that people struggle with, that they don't feel comfortable talking about.
Yeah, I wanted to keep it at least somewhat light and not go too dark into it, because it was very dark.
Yeah, so there's a lot there. Like, so I didn't know that you'd only been married for 6 months when all this happened, like when you got diagnosed. So
Yes.
y'all were like fresh into your relationship when this huge life altering thing happened.
Well, we'd been together for years prior.
Okay. But
Um,
you were newlyweds,
we were
basically.
newlyweds. Yeah, it was very new, and it was it was kind of, I felt bad because it was like she didn't sign up for this.
Hmm.
She signed up to be with who I was.
Hmm.
And then to have that change like immediately, it's one thing if you're together for, and you're married for a really long time and things happen, but it for me, it just felt really sudden.
Right.
And it made me kind of feel bad for her, like this isn't what she wanted. And then as a result, I put on some weight. I put on a lot of weight, and I was like, this isn't who she married.
Hmm.
And it was just hard because it was so new and
Right.
so soon after we were married that it was kind of like, oh, I hope she doesn't, regret this. Or
Right. Like that, even kind of what you were talking about earlier, the fear that comes with being fully seen and
yes.
fully known, especially in your weakness. So not only is that going on like in the outside world with people that you're having to interact with, but within your own marriage and being seen on a deeper level.
Yeah, the one person that's here, for me throughout the whole thing and supposed to be my partner through everything, you lose intimacy, you lose that wanting to have any sort of, like I said, contact or anything, because
Yeah.
you just lose that whole image of who you are. And so I felt extremely alone. And
Yeah.
even though she was there for me, it wasn't anything that she did. It was just something that I thought. And I was like, I feel so alone right now because I didn't, like I said, don't have the outside, and I don't have this connection that I on my own selfish reasons are
Yeah.
pushing away, this connection who's here to help support me.
Yeah. And it all started with a headache. I know one of my favorite things, one of your jokes that you do on stage that, well, I guess you do jokes online too, but
Do now.
especially now, yeah, now that we're all quarantined, they're all online. But when you talk about this whole story and struggle essentially on stage, and you talk about Ramsay Hunt, and when you introduce it, you say, Ramsay Hunt, what even is that? Sounds like a name of a country singer. Like, because no one's ever heard of it. But did they say, was there something that caused it or sparked it, or it's just something that randomly happens to people?
Just randomly happens. It is initially, it's the same as chicken pox. It's the like chicken pox virus, is what causes shingles. And
Wow.
for it's shingles in the ear is what specifically is the Ramsay Hunt. So
What?
if you had chicken pox, you're susceptible to it.
No way.
Yeah, and I don't know what triggered the viral meningitis and the shingles. I was under a lot of stress at that time,
Yeah.
just
At the
a
same time.
lot of stress, a lot. It's just like an overwhelming amount of stress. And so ever since then, I've learned to be like, okay, that was my message of like, you need to just calm down and relax a bit. So,
Yeah. Yeah. You
but
got it all at once. That's another thing you joke about. You say you got the collector's
I did,
edition.
yeah, because people don't know what Ramsay Hunt is, and it sounds like a country singer. It's like, here's Ramsay Hunt singing a smash hit. I can't feel my face when I'm with you.
Ah, which
And
is
it's true.
perfect.
And people don't realize that. They don't realize when I say, you get the collector's edition. So again, I get the hearing loss, vision loss, vertigo, loss of taste, the paralysis. And then I also get this thing called trigeminal neuralgia, which most people don't know about, which is this pain through your trigeminal nerves, which again is the face. And it can be triggered from a gust of wind. It can be triggered from just like touching your
What?
face or whatever. And it's nerve pain. And it feels like a lightning storm going off in your face. And
Wow.
it's actually called, the nickname for it is the suicide disease, because people get it, and some people get it, and it's constant. And I
Wow.
understand why, some people would choose to take their own life than to live with that amount of pain. And it's
Wow.
brutal. I'm very fortunate that mine just kind of comes and goes. But when it comes, that's
Yeah.
that's the end of the day. That's the end of
Yeah.
our broadcast day. There's
Yeah.
nothing going on.
So that still happens. Like you
Yes.
still get the pain and
Yeah,
stuff.
had it last week actually. So
Wow.
yeah,
That's so crazy. It's interesting because you said a lot about pain, which I know that you said you kept it light for the sake of broadcasting. And I know it was more severe than what you spoke of. But I think it's such an important thing to talk about. And the way in which you talked about it, especially with comedy
Mhm.
and using comedy to express the pain instead of drowning in it. Because at one point you had said early on, you said, please don't, don't feel sad. It's really funny. So there's like a time and a place where, yeah, I have to laugh about it, so I don't suffer in it.
Yep.
But then there is a legit time where it's like, this just sucks and the pain is real and I can't pretend like it's not. Like that's
Right.
not going to help me get better. So there's this place in which you exist in the pain, but then getting to a healing point of then using the pain or maybe expressing your pain. And for you, it was through comedy.
Yes.
And I like how you said, if you can laugh at something that causes you pain, it loses power over you.
That's the truth. It really is. I fully believe that, because that I've seen it work firsthand. And it doesn't matter what the issue is, whether it's, whether it's something about maybe, whether it's weight or your appearance or whatever it is. It's like if you have an embarrassing story, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're mortified, like you fall in front of everybody and you just like, oh, I can't even, I just want to go crawl on the ground and die right now, but eventually, over time you start laughing at it and you're like, oh man, I was so stupid. And then you don't have that same feeling. It's just a different level of
Right.
the pain, and so, and I get, I didn't have that right away. I was very depressed for a while.
Yeah,
So
you said years had gone by before you got on stage, right?
yes, yeah, it was a few years, and it was just, it's one of those things where you have to, and it was also, I didn't even mention this, but the year before my sister was killed, and so that made me really not want to do comedy. I was like, I don't want to be funny right now. And
Right.
then so it was such an up and down emotion, because it was like I had, my sister was killed, and then later that year I got married, and then like 6 months later this happened, and it was just like, I'm done. Like I'm
Yeah.
done. I want nothing to do with anybody right now or with life right now. But you eventually start to kind of you start to kind of heal through that. And then, like when I talk to people who have facial paralysis and I do these jokes, I always say, listen, I understand that not everybody's in the same point of healing that I am. Some of you, this might be very new, and so you can't even fathom laughing at what I'm going to say.
Yeah.
And I'm not taking that lightly, and I'm not ignoring those feelings or dismissing those feelings. Those are very real feelings. I'm just telling you, this is where I'm at now, and this is my story, and this is how I felt.
Right.
It's a very empowering message, though, when you can sit there and say, I'm going to laugh at this, and you can't hurt me anymore.
And I'm sure, especially like just to give hope to people who are maybe in the middle of the dark place, when you're in that dark place, you can say to yourself stuff to encourage yourself to get out of it, or it won't always be like this, but I'm sure while you were in the middle of that pain and that really hard time, it's not like you were thinking, one day I'll laugh about it. Like sometimes that's
Right.
the worst advice you can give somebody,
Yeah,
is like,
absolutely.
it'll be fine, like at some point it's all part of the plan, or there's going to be a greater
This
purpose.
too
And
shall pass, and
yeah,
there's a
it's
silver lining, and you're like,
and it
shut up.
yeah,
Shut
exactly.
up. Leave
It's
me alone.
yeah, it's not that good can't come from hard things, but that is not a helpful piece of information or advice when you're in the middle of the hard thing.
No, it has to, I think it has to come from within.
Mm.
Because no one knows what you're going through, even if you've had a similar experience. Your thoughts are your thoughts. But if you can find something, if you're going through the middle of a dark place, maybe look for something where you can, like, okay, the good thing about depression is I now know the most comfortable sweatpants,
Yeah.
brand of like, whether it's something as simple as that, where you
Yeah.
go, or I know my favorite sleeping positions, or I'm going to mix it up today and sleep on a different couch, just,
Right.
so,
Yeah.
I mean, there's little things
That's
that you
funny.
can find some similar, some
Make
small
yourself
humor.
laugh. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's so important to try to find that, even if it's just yourself. You said, I don't know if this will make sense, but it does to you, because you said when you were really in the thick of it, you said, I didn't want to die. I just didn't want to exist.
Yeah.
And I get it. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. You might not be actively, plotting your
Right.
departure,
Right.
but there is this sort of, I've definitely been in the place where it's been like, I just don't want to wake up tomorrow. Like the
Right.
thought of another day even just felt like too much time to have to get through.
Yeah, it's like again, I'm not looking to do it myself, but I would like to just not be conscious
Yeah.
for however long that is.
Not even have to be aware
Yeah,
of the act it takes
right.
to get there. I just want to not be here.
Yeah.
There might not be an answer for this other than you don't know, you just made it through. But was there something or someone or what during that dark, dark, dark time like helped you just was it just like a day by day, moment by moment, like it sucked a little less? Or
Yeah.
were there things along the way that just sort of gave you hope? Like, did you think at that time, like, well, one day I'll perform again? Or was it just like,
No, I was like, my career's over.
Mm.
My life's over. Again, as I said, it's part of you dies. That's how I felt. I felt like I died,
Yeah,
but
but you're still here.
everything I identified with is dead
Yeah.
and gone. And now I have to pick up the pieces somehow. Like, what's the rest of my life going to be like? What is, am I going to be like this my whole life? I think that was it when it started to heal after 9 months. Once I got about a year plus in, and things started to like slowly come back, get a little bit of my hearing back, not all of it. And I was like, okay, that's cool. My eye closes. Okay, so now I don't have to worry as much about losing my eye. Okay, my face is starting to heal. I can kind of breathe. So all those fears that I had, that fear of the unknown, of what's my life going to be, and trying to have everything planned out and go, what am I going to do, and what am I going to look like, and how's this all going to be, and how am I going to survive? And so I just got little pieces back, and that started to like kind of help me go, okay, it's not worst case scenario right now, so this is a little bit better, because I can do this, and I can close my eye. And then the funny part is, the terrible part about what happened to me is, and it happens to a lot of people who get facial paralysis, is you get the full on face drop, the palsy, and then your face starts to come back because all the nerves take forever to rewire. And then they continue. So it's like you get good and you're like, oh, I look normal. And then what happens is they continue to start to rewire, and it goes the other way. And then you get this thing that I have called synkinesis, which is involuntary muscle movement. So if I move certain muscles in my face, other muscles in my face move.
No way.
Yeah. So if you watch, this is my good eye. So if you watch my cheek and my neck, when I close my eye, nothing happens. But now when you watch this one, you see,
Yeah.
my face comes over, the cheek tightens up, and then my neck muscle pulls down into my chest.
Oh yeah, I guess mine doesn't do that.
So if you were to do the can you do that with your face? Just like to tighten your neck?
I don't know how to, I'm like thinking about it.
Just, I don't know, do that like turtle, like.
Yeah.
So yeah, or when I drink out of a straw, like my eye closes, or when I chew, it's just constantly like doing Morse code, like, hey, what's going on, everybody? And so yeah, you have to learn to work around that.
Yeah.
And so I chew with my eyes closed, when I was out at the
No
restaurant, like that took,
way.
you never noticed that about me or whatever, but when I would drink out of a straw, I would close both of my eyes so that it looked normal, as opposed to
As opposed to one-eyed Willie.
yeah, exactly. Hey, how are you doing, Tar?
I've never noticed that.
Right. And it's something that I learned, and I was like, okay. And the same when I chew, I'll either look down so people can't see it, or I'll chew with my mouth closed.
I
Or
thought you
my
were
eyes
just,
closed.
I
always chew
thought
with
you
my
were
mouth
just
closed.
enjoying your
This is
food.
amazing. These are the best nachos ever. But no, it's specifically done so that I could not have that happen. So, but it's hard because it's like when I go to kiss my wife, like it happens. When I chew food, it's constantly. So it's like hundreds and hundreds of times a day that it just pulls and it pulls and it pulls, and it's just this weird thing. So that's another thing to try to work through. And there's a surgery that I'm trying to get so that it'll stop pulling. So yeah. But it's just one of those things. It's a new challenge in life. It's a new normal, and you just try to, work with it the best that you can.
Yeah. So it sounds like it was just kind of essentially baby steps. Like
Yes.
just
Sorry.
little.
Yeah. To get back to your question, as
No,
I
it's so
wander
good.
way off the
No,
track.
it's good.
Go
Just
back.
baby. It's just baby step after little thing after
Yes.
little thing. It's not like it all got better all at once.
No, and I would also say try to find something that you enjoy, whether it was like playing a video game, or if you love music, listen to music. The biggest thing I think, and I say this to anyone that I find that gets facial paralysis, or anyone that's struggling, is just be kind to yourself. Stop beating yourself up. Just be
Yeah.
kind to yourself. If there's things you like to do, do them. For you, if you want to paint, or and you find relaxation in that and joy in that, paint. Doesn't matter that you're painting, all in shades of black. Like it doesn't.
Right.
None of that matters. It doesn't
Yep.
matter if you're listening to angry music. If that's what you need, then that's what you need, and whatever that takes. And be thankful that if there's still things you can do. That's what I had to do. Is I had to look for the positives, because everything was so depressing. I was like, look, I can still listen to the ocean, I can still listen to music, I can still see a sunset. Like, I'm still very lucky.
Yeah.
And
Doing things that make you feel alive.
yeah,
Like you said, it felt like like part of you died. Like
yeah,
there is a death, so to speak. And so to find those little things that make you feel alive.
right. And
Like,
it's okay to grieve. It's okay to not feel like doing it. You don't have to be like, put on a happy face, which I can't anyway. But you don't have to feel that way. You have your days when you're angry and you're upset and you're crying, and you feel like you don't want to wake up tomorrow, and that's fine, and that's normal.
yeah.
It's just, if you can try not to have those all the time and every day, just allow yourself that break.
Yeah.
Be kind to yourself and allow yourself to go, okay, you know what?
Yeah.
I want to have some cookies today. I'm gonna go, just smell some roses. I'm gonna watch Cops on TV. Whatever it is that works for you, and just
Right.
find to treat yourself well. Just find little baby steps of little goals that you can do to just move you forward. Even if it's like, all right, today I'm gonna wear pants.
Yeah.
All right, I wore pants. All right, I did it.
Good start. Yeah. And then you feel
All right.
victorious.
Yeah, exactly. I wore pants. Maybe I'll get the mail.
Small victories.
I don't want to push it, but maybe I'll go get the mail today. And be okay with that.
Put on the pants first, then go
Yes,
get the mail.
definitely put on the pants first and then get the mail. Because then you have other problems.
Yeah. Hey guys, thanks so much for listening to this episode. I really hope you enjoyed Brian and his story. Please be sure to tune in next week, because I really love what we were able to continue to pack in with all we had to talk about regarding mental health, regarding taking care of yourself, regarding what that looks like for each individual person. There's no blanket formula answer. So I hope you check out next week as we talk a little bit more about it, as well as some other things, but you'll have to tune in to find out. And if you enjoyed Brian, please be sure to check out his podcasts as well. The Uncommon Comedy Podcast, interviewing comedians in the entertainment business, does a little trivia sometimes. And also Unique Smiles, the podcast for people with facial paralysis, interviewing people, hearing their stories. It's entertaining, it's heartfelt, it's really great as far as storytelling goes. So if you're looking for a good listen, be sure to check those out. Also, the surgery that Brian mentioned about dealing with all the pain in his face, the muscles, I can't really scientifically explain what it all does, but he did a great job if you tune in on YouTube and watch how he maneuvered his face to show how moving one side affects the other, and the muscles that are moving that aren't supposed to be moving, and all of this pain that results in. There's a major surgery that people with facial paralysis can get to deal with the pain. Super expensive, like uber super expensive. And so there's actually a fundraiser link set up for him if you are so inclined to donate to help him out with that surgery. Obviously, comedians are not performing right now. And if they are, it's virtual. And with that comes a huge deduction in pay because we aren't leaving our homes. So I say that to say so that Brian won't have to ask, as a good friend, if you want to help a comedian out, help a storyteller out, help someone out who helps out so many other people. He's such a great guy, has a huge heart. And he really just genuinely does want to do good and want to help people laugh and enjoy life more, because he knows what it's like to not enjoy it, and it's not a place he wants anyone else to have to be. Please consider donating so that he can get this surgery done to eliminate all the pain that he has to deal with in his face as a result of his paralysis. So I included a link in the show notes, and you can check it out there. And yeah, I think that's all my news for this week. Thanks so much for tuning in, and be sure to tune in next week when we have Brian back one last time this season.